So in terms of our entry charts, I hope you understand how important that blue chart is, that Alice blue chart with the wave on it. I hope you absolutely understand that is the most important chart really of this setup, because if you screw up there, everything else is going to basically be built on that bad foundation. So the entry charts do not have to be within the look back, because at this point, if we've already established the market cycle of the pair, I'm just going to keep cycling through these time frames with the hope that at some point I might see a market cycle that's appropriate that's happening now. But you don't need to be within the look back on the entry charts. The green and the red are the entry charts. The blue, again, is just designed to help us find which pair on the 5-minute time frame is heading in that 12 to 2 or 4 to 6. So what we want to do at this point is, once we identify a 12 to 2 or 4 to 6, okay, is we go to either the green or the red. So let me tell you what moving averages are on each one of these charts, and I'll tell you when to use them. So let's just use this Canada, for example. Okay, just for no other reason than let's just use this for here. I don't think it's a great example, hear me out, but let's just use that for now. On the green chart, which is designed for the markup cycles, the 12 to 2, I have the, and let me go ahead and pull up the indicator list. I have the 13-period exponential moving average on the close. That's the one that's in lime. Okay? Again, the 13-period exponential on the close. I have the 21-period exponential on the close. You can see that I put that in medium sea green. I know a lot of you like to use similar colors, so that's why I'm showing you the actual indicator settings I've got, so you can make yours look just like mine. Okay? I've got also the 34-period exponential on the low. Okay, the other two are on the closes, if you remember. 13-period exponential close, 21-period exponential close. This one's on the low. This is a markup cycle chart, right? This green background chart. I use this one for when the cycle on the 5-minute is heading up at 12 to 2. The 34-period low, then, in essence, is the bottom line of the wave, right? You can see I put that in red. And finally, the last moving average, it's just 4 of them, is the 55-period exponential on the close. I put that one in maroon. This is not probably an appropriate place to discuss it, but part of the series of moving averages that I like to use on different charts are what I call my Lazy Days lines, and it's named after my favorite seafood restaurant down in Isla Mirada called Lazy Days. And they're all Fibonacci-based exponential moving averages that I use for support and resistance. And the 55 is the first of those Lazy Days lines. And maybe at some point in the future we'll have a discussion of how I use other Fibonacci-based. There's one thing that's in common. All the moving averages except for a 200-period simple that you'll see on my charts, everything else is a Fibonacci number-based exponential moving average. Okay? I'm very consistent about that. So the last moving average, again, on the chart is the 55 exponential on the close, and again, it's in maroon. The actual background color, for those of you that are curious, on this green chart is, okay, it's honeydew. Okay, it's a honeydew. I actually have Alice blue on this blue chart, again, for those of you that are curious. So it's honeydew on this green. This is the chart I will go to if the market cycle on the 5-minute chart is 12 to 2 in a markup. Okay. On the red chart, this one is lavender blush, just so you know. It's the background color, lavender blush. So moving averages are all the same, except, okay, so again, I've got the 13-period close in lime, exponential close. I've got the 21-period exponential close in medium sea green. Here's the difference. The third moving average. It's the 34-period exponential on the high in red. Now, the red chart is what I will use for my setups when the market cycle is down on the 5-minute chart. So what the 34-period high ends up being is the top line of the wave. Okay, so on the downward angling setups, my red chart I'm going to be using that 34 exponential on the high. And finally, the 55 on the close. So the only difference between the two, hopefully you've noticed, is the 34 period. On the green chart, it's set on the low. On the red chart, it's set on the high. Those are the moving averages on these two charts. I will use the green chart when the 5 minutes is heading up. I will use the red chart when the 5 minute is heading down. Simple as that. I like to have them both here because I don't want to have to reset them up or go digging for one. I like having them right here. They can be small just like this because you're not making any kind of market cycle assessment or angle assessment or anything like that. They can be big just like this. Okay? By the way, those of you that are curious as to what I do with the pivots up on the 5 minute chart, that is absolutely a optional thing, but remember, on short-term time frames, I think pivots are extremely powerful. Not always, okay, but what they do have is they're super easy to analyze. I mean, there's no last major move to determine, like if you're using Fibonacci, there's no candlesticks to have to find, although you could automate that with the CPR program from Interbank FX. You could absolutely do that, but you don't want to have to make any kind of time-taking decisions. We don't have that luxury of time. We don't have the kind of time for nuanced analysis like I think Fibonacci or candlesticks would actually require. We want just black and white. Here are the pivots. Here are the moving averages. Probably the most subjective thing we do is the look back and then the wave angle reading. That's the most subjective and most important thing we do. After that, you'll notice I've taken great pains to actually mechanize things as much as possible because in a 5 minute setup, again, we don't have the time for this nuanced type analysis with more complicated tools. All right? So the pivots here, they're super simple. They are what they are. Their support, their resistance, and I can see how prices might react at those levels. And what they'll essentially become, along with psychological levels, are potential profit targets. Okay? They might be they'll essentially become potential profit targets. So here's the setup.